All right, let's just get right into it. We need to talk about a feeling. A feeling I'm willing to bet you know really, really well. It's that kind of weird, uncomfortable, slightly queasy feeling you get when you're scrolling on your phone late at night. It's so common now that we don't even really think about it. But today, we're going to think about it.
You know this scene, right? It's late, the room is pitch black, except for that bluish glow of your phone lighting up your face, and you're just scrolling, mindlessly consuming this feed that feels like a head-on collision of completely different worlds.
Because this is where it gets so bizarre. One second, you're watching a truly devastating report from a war zone, something absolutely heartbreaking. And then, with just one flick of your thumb, boom, you're watching a cat fall off a couch or a sped-up video of someone making a sandwich. The emotional whiplash is it's intense.
And when you see that tragedy, you do feel something. You feel that quick, sharp sting of sadness, a little flash of empathy in your chest. But it's here and gone in a second. You swipe, and that real human suffering is instantly replaced by a meme, and maybe you even let out a little laugh.
Now, you might feel a little off about moving on so quickly. So you tell yourself something to make it okay. You grab for an easy explanation, right? Oh, I'm just overwhelmed. Or, well, it's just the speed of modern life. But what if those are just stories? What if the real diagnosis is something else entirely? What if you're actually caught in a trap?
And look, let's be super clear here. This is not a judgment call on you. You're not a bad person. You're not heartless. This is more like a diagnosis of our collective capacity right now. And this condition, well, it has a name: digital empathy.
So what in the world is digital empathy? Think of it as a simulation of the real thing. It gives you that little rush, that little dopamine hit that makes you feel like, hey, I'm a good person, I care. But here's the catch. It doesn't ask anything of you. There's no action required, no output, no correction like real, messy, in-the-world empathy demands. It's all of the feeling with none of the friction.
To really wrap our heads around this, we need to pull in some backup from one of the most important thinkers of the 20th century, Hannah Arendt. She gave us this incredible framework for understanding how just a lack of thinking can open the door for terrible things. She called it the banality of evil.
So back in the 60s, Arendt went to the trial of Adolf Eichmann, a high-ranking Nazi officer. And she was expecting to find a monster, right? But she didn't. She found a bureaucrat, an ordinary guy who just spoke in cliches and was obsessed with following the rules. And this led her to a terrifying idea, that huge, unimaginable suffering can be caused by people who aren't motivated by some deep, twisted hatred, but by a complete absence of thought about the actual human beings their actions affect. And today, our screen has become the ultimate procedural interface.
This digital interface, our feed, it creates that distance in a few key ways. First, it just shatters responsibility. If a million people see it, then nobody is responsible for it. Second, it takes real, raw human suffering and repackages it as just another piece of content, right next to the dance trend and the life hack. And finally, it puts you in the audience. You become a spectator, not a participant in reality. Okay, so how do we break out? How do we escape the trap? The key is realizing that just seeing a problem isn't the same as caring about it. We have to make a conscious shift. We have to move from being passive consumers to being active and responsible. We have to stop just managing our digital lives and start actually authoring them. Think about it like there are two different ways to live online. On one side, you've got management. That's when you're just reacting to whatever the feed throws at you, you're swatting at notifications all day, you're just passively taking it all in. But on the other side, there's authorship. That's when you take total responsibility for where your attention goes. You decide what input you let into your mind, you deliberately practice focus.
So what does being an author actually look like in practice? Well, the prescription is surprisingly concrete. It starts with a 30-day digital declutter. Just get rid of the algorithmic feeds for a month. Then you've got to replace all that passive digital input with real analog output. Go make something, fix something, help a neighbor. Instead of scrolling past 1,000 problems, have one single, fully present conversation with someone. And finally, you start to rebuild that muscle of focus and empathy through deliberate practice, that constant catching and returning of your attention. And this all leads us to the toughest truth in this whole thing. That suspension of real thought. That's what makes everyday cruelty possible. When we let the feed do the thinking for us, when we outsource our attention and our feelings, we're giving up the very thing that makes us human agents. Your attention, it's not just a resource to be managed. It's a moral act.
And that was Arendt's most profound point. Thinking is a moral practice. It's the hard, uncomfortable, and frankly costly refusal to stop asking what our actions, and maybe more importantly, what our inactions mean for the person on the other side of that screen.
So you're not just a passive witness to all the cruelty in the world. Through your silence, through your scroll, you're actually a participant in the systems that allow it to continue. But, and this is everything, that also means you have the power to change things.
That power, that pen, has always been in your hand. You are the author of your attention, of your focus, of your actions. So the only question left to ask is, what are you going to write?